Grief Karga said you were coming.
What else did he say?
He said you were the best in the parsec. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur.
Your name will be legendary.
I don't know if you heard, but the Empire is gone.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
Hello and welcome to Mandalorian Minute, a Who Watches podcast about the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian. I'm Travis Fishburne.
I'm Alex Brunel.
I'm Dustin Meadows.
And this week, once again, Ryan is not going to be with us as he is on the run from the Empire. Best of luck to you, Ryan. We hope to see you again next season. And this episode is going to be a season wrap-up episode where we talk about the season as a whole. We explore kind of what the future may look like for this show and the Disney Plus series, and we're going to go into a little bit of the Mandalorian Gallery episode that was dropped on Friday, which I liked. I wish that it was more like the first season that they had done, but I still liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also watched that. I mean, is that our first topic of conversation, or is we get into that later? I don't know.
We can get word.
We're free balling it, y'all. No underpants.
That's it.
They were no wonder.
Yeah, I mean, like I had the same kind of feeling about this behind the scenes. Dustin, I know you were very enthusiastic about it, but I mean, like I had the same kind of feeling I did about the first season, which is like, it's amazing to see a lot of the production process. It's amazing to get into the nitty gritty of like the kind of work that was really put into the show. And in that way, this really does get that across. Like it really, there is so much. I'll put one of the images that you sent up, Travis, because this was maybe the most surprising thing to me, is that the Dark Troopers were practical things. I thought those were entirely computer generated, personally.
Me too. There's a video that started going around of Robert Rodriguez jamming out with Grogu right beside him.
Yeah.
And everyone was like so obsessed with like sharing that. And the only thing I could see is, I'm like, in the background, you can see a guy in a Dark Trooper outfit.
Yeah, you can. So like, this is the best like robot guys in suits since the good robot Bill and Ted in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But like that kind of stuff was great, but the shortcomings are you get into when you step back and it is a Disney product, and like almost every, like 90% of the things that people are saying to the camera are things that they were fed by the Disney rep that's sitting behind the camera to say about the show. But it was so cool to see like when you see two cameras shooting on the volume and you see the background shift as the cameras shift, and it's just adjusting for the parallax of the cameras, and seeing that kind of stuff is just like blowing my mind all the time. I would feel so privileged to be able to work on that stage someday. It'd be badass.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of other
the way
feelings
things are
too,
going, Alex, I don't know if like even that particular stage, but one similar to it, I think is not too far off.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a different workflow I got to learn, which will be totally interesting, and I'm excited for that to eventually happen. There's a lot of new toys on the cameras that play on Mandalorian that I haven't not yet played with in my career that I'd be very excited to. And yeah, I could wax more about that, but we should, I don't know. Mandalorian Season 2, wow.
Yeah.
Dustin.
Wow. I mean, yeah, a lot of the same stuff you guys already said. I actually did not watch the Gallery series for the first season. It was one of those things that I kept meaning to, and I just didn't. Actually, the first time I even looked at it was right before I watched this one for season 2, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to cram in a half hour for each episode before the podcast today.
Yeah.
But fortunately, it was just an hour and change. But yeah, it was a lot of fun seeing the behind the scenes stuff, especially like just seeing Favreau and Filoni, but I mean everyone else too, like just geek out about it. And
it seems like real genuine geekery. Like that stuff does not feel forced at all. It's like you can tell these people are like, oh man, we get to do this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And and especially in the wake of this season concluding, like I said, I've seen people split on how it wrapped up, but there's still a lot of people that are kind of cynical for whatever reason because they're joyless people who can't be happy about anything ever. There's like obviously Disney's fingerprints are on this because it's one of their properties. But I don't think that means that people still can't take joy and put pride into what they're doing. It doesn't make this any less art than a John Waters film or anything else. And it's just, I think it's silly that people have that reaction.
That's a separate debate.
Well, sure.
I would take that on, actually, but I agree with the point you're trying to make.
The way that some people regard John Waters films.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, yes.
But
can we save that and I can put it in at the post credits for the episode?
Sure. The Star Wars as art versus John Waters as art. Sure, let's have that conversation.
But yeah, I mean, and Jon Favreau, like he literally mentions it several times. Like the beauty of the show is how they can do different things. Like they can dabble in different genres. And at one point, he even directly references Leone when he's directing Timothy Olyphant in the season premiere. And I'm so burnt out on the argument. It's like, oh, this is just for kids. I was like, shut up. Like, it's first off, it's not. It's clearly because kids don't have disposable income, you moron.
Right.
But it's just like go watch whatever boring, sad, I don't know, Todd Solondz film you want to watch. And like, just let us have our thing. Like, we're not coming over to your house and breaking your balls for watching Requiem for a Dream on a loop.
Oh, like, God, who does that?
Very sad people.
I was going to say, I want to meet the person who...
I don't. I want to never meet the person. They're probably like that. They're probably like the Michael McKean's character in The Good Place, where they're just the most neurotic, terrible human being.
It's just a human Eeyore.
I thought you were going to say Michael McKean from Better Call Saul.
Very similar, actually.
See, I thought you were just going to say Michael McKean from Clue, and I was completely lost at what point you were trying to make. But yeah, it's just something I'm kind of burnt out on. But it's nice to have that reaffirmed by the people who are creating this, seeing people who enjoy, who are stoked to be a part of this at all.
Yeah.
Like, and especially, I think my favorites, honestly, were watching Tamara Morrison talk about getting to play Boba Fett. And especially trying to work in like his cultural background into that character, which was really cool.
Really great.
And then Rodriguez being such a nerd that he literally shot a live action storyboard with his kids in his backyard.
My heart.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And
I have an image of that Travis pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
He put his kids in. He put two of his kids in Boba Fett and Stormtrooper helmets, and the rest of it was action figures.
Pretty shot for shot of what we see in the show, too.
It was, because it's Rodriguez, and he knows what he wants.
But very like, Rodriguez thing to do.
When that little clip, I actually teared up a little bit because like seeing the just like it's the same thing he's been doing for 20 years. And it's like it's with the same joy. And like that clearly reads like in him playing with action figures on his iPhone in his backyard. And it's just like it's as you know, like I have a lot of thoughts on Robert Rodriguez as a filmmaker overall, and they're very mixed. But he was a huge influence on me when I was getting into the idea of filmmaking as a teenager, and his enthusiasm for the medium and for knowing the things and learning the things and doing it yourself was a huge inspiration to me. And it's still inspiring to see that he has that still. Which, you know, I could have very easily questioned because I feel like I haven't seen a lot of that kind of energy in his recent stuff. But maybe that's what Star Wars did to him. Maybe that's what getting the opportunity to bring back Boba Fett into the Star Wars universe does.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
No, it was very cool seeing that. I would not expect any filmmaker to have that kind of childlike passion into recreating something like that.
Oh, yeah. And another thing, another like opinion that this show has totally turned me around on is I really did not used to like Bryce Dallas Howard very much, and I'm only talking about her work as a performer, which is the only thing I was familiar with prior to her directing episodes of Mandalorian. I've never been a huge fan of her as an actress. I you know, it seemed like a lot seemed like nepotism because I was seeing what a lot of performances I just didn't think were very good. But I have to say, not only do I think she is like so obviously the son of Ron Howard and just how she can like has the director's brain, but like I like her a lot now as a human being. I probably still don't like her as a performer, but as a human and a director, like I'm very pro Bryce Dallas Howard now. So thanks.
Very interesting.
Thanks,
just considering how small of a filmography she has.
Yeah, totally.
In that regard.
And she, I think I mentioned this last week. I got to watch through my union an online panel between a lot of the photography crew of The Mandalorian, the directors of photography, one of the main visual effects guys, and then Bryce Dallas Howard was on it also. This was like just a Zoom webinar thing. But she talks about this a little bit in the Disney Gallery thing when she talks about like she was thinking about doing a crane shot over the boat, and Favreau's like, you can't put a crane in the ocean, so that shot reads as false. Another story like that she told, this was another instance, is she had it like they previs the hell out of everything. Like every episode exists shot for shot in previs.
You'd have to with the tech they're working with.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, but she had this idea for this other shot, which, you know, a thing about the volume is there's a point in the day called magic hour. It's like just before dusk. Everything is very evenly exposed, very warm, very soft, and it's just before it becomes unshootable. It's like a 15-minute window every day. And it's the biggest pain in the ass to do when you're shooting on location. And there was a shot she wanted to do of the Razor Crest on the dock, and it was a magic hour shot. And one of the dangers of shooting in the volume is you could literally shoot magic hour all day. You could just dial that in and live at that. But that's going to read as false to an audience in a way, because an audience knows that unless you're watching Days of Heaven, movies don't do that. Shows don't do that. It can't look like that the whole time. And it's, you know, it's been internalized in our cinematic language that we know, like, there's a finite amount of time and that's a short moment in the film. So she wanted to do that. And the thing that Favreau told her is like, okay, well, when you shoot it that way, when you shoot the main thing, that's your perfect lighting. That's your moment. That's what you concentrate on. But when you turn around and you get the reaction shot, it has to be a little bit darker. It can't be the same thing just on the turnaround, because if we were shooting in a real world situation, by the time you get the camera pointing the other way, the light is drastically different, even if it's still kind of in the same feel. So like those kinds of adjustments and stuff, and that kind of advice that Favreau is, and guidance that Favreau is giving to the show, I think is a way bigger part of the glue that is making this the experience that it is than maybe people realize, I think. Yeah, just that kind of thinking.
Yeah, it is not the J.J. Abrams, I'm going to executive produce a show approach.
No, this is like a real, true, deep understanding of cinematic language and what people expect subconsciously to see on screen, and playing to that and having a show with fewer real visual limits still adhere to a lot of those rules to make us believe that it is real. It's crazy how well it works.
Yeah, there's no part of me that's ever thought like Jon Favreau didn't know what he was doing, but like hearing those stories, and especially just seeing how he communicates with people and talks about those ideas in this behind the scenes stuff, just, I mean, I already respected him, but like it just puts him in a whole new light for me.
Yeah. This also, he did an episode of, was it Nerdist or is it the other podcast that Hardwick does now? Whatever it was, like he did an interview with him a few years ago that was like prior to The Mandalorian. It was getting me really hyped just based on his approach to life and art is very appealing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's another thing that, like Bryce Dallas Howard, I didn't have a low opinion of Favreau going into The Mandalorian, but I didn't have this opinion of Favreau going into The Mandalorian. It's like, yeah, Iron Man 1 is great, but it's also kind of hard to see, like, really in what ways that really pushed a lot of things and innovated just because it was such a product. And I think it's easier to see on The Mandalorian. But I mean, like, I guess even something like as awful as I think the Lion King remake that Favreau did is, we wouldn't have Mandalorian without what he learned on that. And on Jungle Book, which I thought was also pretty awful. But those are different conversations. But yeah, I don't know. Those movies should have been better. He's smarter than that.
Yeah, I do not understand that. I still have yet to see The Lion King, but
So
I mean, I think
don't
he's
worry
just
about
got crazy wide range as far as like what he can do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Zathura all the way, though.
yeah.
Zathura all day.
He's just got such passion, him and Filoni. Filoni's been working in the Star Wars universe for 15 years now, doing this kind of stuff. So you think, like, is he, like, I hope he doesn't get burnt out, but he doesn't seem that way. In every interview I've ever seen him in, and every, this entire show, he still seems to be just as excited by things. I've got a little clip here, and this is of Favreau and Filoni debating on the I forget the John Leguizamo character's name, but it's when
The pest.
Yeah, it's when they're going to leave the pest out to dry, and he's hanging there, and Mando's leaving him for dead, and Favreau tries to convince Filoni to let him have Mando say McClunky.
McClunky. It's something Greedo says, though.
Now, yeah, but if it's curtains, if McClunky means a lot of things.
Mando to say McClunky?
Yes. Should he? When he shoots the light out, he says, "Mando, don't leave me here. Don't leave me here."
Come on. When you say it out loud.
I'm glad Filoni won that one.
Maybe one of the only decisions I disagree with this season.
But just like the passion there,
Yeah.
them talking and doing that.
There was another moment later in the thing, too, where they were talking about visualizing the spinning passenger chamber in The Slave One, where, like, Filoni caps the conversation by just going, "Try spinning, it's a good trick."
That also, somehow I missed that watching the episode and then hearing them talk about it and seeing it again. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that that's what we were seeing. Like,
I didn't either at all.
It's such a neat little thing that they threw in there.
But also, I'm glad that they dwelled on that, because I assumed that was like a green screen visual effect. I assumed that there was no way to do that on the volume, but I am wrong. That was incredible. That was in camera. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it looked great too.
The one thing I didn't really understand about the way the special unfolded is we got like 4 minutes on Bib Fortuna, and we got 0 minutes on Luke Skywalker.
Probably. I mean, I think that was all in a hope that they could keep things under wraps. I heard a recent interview with Favreau where he was getting very concerned when things started to leak, when the Tamara Morrison stuff leaked, when the Rosario Dawson stuff leaked.
I didn't realize those were leaks. I thought those were announcements.
No, they were, because they never got confirmed. Up until those episodes came out, they were never confirmed.
Oh, interesting.
And he was like, oh, somebody's going to find out. Like, up until the episode was like coming out, he was concerned that it was going to leak.
That makes sense.
So I guess they did not go into deep focus on that with this, because there's probably a select few crew who could work on that, and
that's probably true. And they didn't want to give the documentary guys access to that bit of info, which makes sense. I mean, yeah,
that's fair. On going back a few minutes on Leguizamo's character.
Oh yeah.
This also just, the world needs to recognize that John Leguizamo is a genuine talent, and
Yeah.
I think he's doing okay for himself. Like, he's by no means in the poorhouse, but like there are days where I wake up and like, I feel like John Leguizamo should be way more famous than he is.
Yeah. Where's that Luigi spinoff movie?
Yeah.
I'll take the Pest 2 where he now owns an island.
Yeah, like he's just so good in that, like, and that's such a small part too.
No, and that was sorry, you have more to say. I didn't want to interrupt you.
I was just gonna say, like, it's such a small role, and like he's genuinely there, like batting ideas and taking direction and ideas from Favreau.
Yeah,
and like he's on screen for what, 3 minutes?
Yeah,
like he could easily sleepwalk through this.
Totally.
Any guest star on this show could have phoned it in.
Totally.
I don't necessarily think the directors would have let them, but like every person who's shown up for this show, especially the bigger names for like small parts, have been invested, and they've really followed through and committed to their performances.
Totally.
And I think that's really great that we get so many of those in this show.
Yeah. Like that was such a cool thing to see, was Leguizamo taking direction from Favreau and like completely changing the character between those two line reads, like two totally different reads on the character, just like on the spot within like 30 seconds of each other. Really cool to see process like that when it's so kind of on the nose. And it's just like, and it's not like one thing he did was right, one thing he did was wrong. He just did two totally different things that were, both had their things. But yeah, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, on an acting note too, they talk about Giancarlo Esposito just going crazy in the last episode with the Darksaber, and the
sounded
prop
like
master
he broke a lot of props.
not being happy because he had to keep making more Darksabers.
Yep.
I imagine there were probably like 4 stunt sabers, and they probably got to their last one at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else was cool? Oh, this was a thing the special did, which again, this is like, they have to, right? They have to serve it. They have to make a big deal out of the fact that Katie Sackhoff like voiced Bo-Katan for years and now is playing Bo-Katan, but has to play down the fact that Ashley Eckstein is not playing.
I was going to say, the same thing is not...
like when the Bo-Katan thing came up, I was like, you're making that big of a deal out of this, and you like totally cut out Ashley Eckstein, and like she gets a name drop, she gets mentioned, which is again not to bash Rosario on anything, like she was great, but just like that was like, oh, Disney, having your cake and eating it too. I would have really loved
to have seen just like a bit of an exploration as to, I want to say the reasons why, but
but
just
some
kind of like
bone thrown to just like, when we were casting it, we decided we wanted to go with this kind of a physicality, and we just know that Ashley doesn't have, like even just like some like lip service reason, just acknowledge that you did something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're doing the opposite with another character.
Right. What else? We got, I'm going to put up this picture this screenshot you took, Trav. This is, behind the scenes of social media, is when George is meeting the child. George Lucas is meeting the child, and we see Favreau take that picture that wound up on Instagram, wound up all over the internet. And I'm just like, this is the first time I've seen like a behind the scenes of like an Instagram post, and like that was weird.
The whole time I was watching this clip, I'm like, oh, it's about to take the picture. And then it made me realize, like, it made me think the whole time. And I watched this particular clip again today. Like the Instagram post, it's very blurry.
Yeah.
I wish I should have posted that as well, because it seems like Favreau snuck it. Like, George doesn't want me taking a picture. But
right.
He clearly had plenty of time to take this picture, and it still ended up blurry.
I think he just has like probably an older iPhone.
I guess so.
And then speaking of George, both chuckle. That's pretty cute. I
wonder if
I would love for them to have put Lucas in a chair and just had him say like 2 sentences about the show.
Yeah, it seems really weird that he was there and they didn't like get a sound bite or anything.
Yeah. See, these are the things. These are that's the Disneyfication of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was one of the other thing? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say for Lucas to be meeting a live action version of this character that was his idea. Like it was between him and Favreau coming up with her. Favreau sketched her and brought her to life, but
Filoni.
when they were, that's what I mean, Filoni. Yeah. But when they were starting Clone Wars, he told Filoni like, Anakin has a Padawan, and Filoni's like, no, he doesn't. He's like, yeah, he does, and he totally retcons himself and creates this whole character that Filoni then has to start making, and it's just like a very interesting, I think, experience for everyone on that set on that day, for Filoni and George and for Rosario to be like, well, here this character is that was came out of that conversation 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's got to be wild. George. What else about season 2 of Mando?
One of the other things that I really dug, I know I mentioned earlier, kind of just how stoked everyone is to be there. It was really cool watching the parts like Bryce Dallas Howard and Peyton Reed and Rodriguez, the other directors. Again, they could have come into this, not done any research, just looked at the script and be like, okay, this is what I got to shoot. And I don't know, there's no part of me that thought I would live to see Ron Howard's daughter referring to Quarrens by their name.
I know, right? Off the top of her head.
Stuff like that. Obviously, if I were involved in any way, I would know what stuff is called, but the goofy, slightly antagonistic part of me would still want to refer to them as Cthulhu faces on set. Mm-hmm. But just everyone clearly has a profound respect and took the time to research and kind of learn the background and the lore and just little things like knowing what things are called.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to. And it's just, that is widespread. It doesn't seem like there's a single person involved in this who is oh, this is just a paycheck. I could care less about Baby Yoda or whatever.
Totally.
How surprised would you have been if Bill Burr did the same thing?
I would have been very surprised. I know he's the odd man out on this. And as soon as they even showed him, I was like, yeah, he's going to get 10 seconds of talk time this whole thing because he's not a Star Wars guy.
Right. He's just it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm in a Star Wars.
By far, my favorite thing that is in this this behind the scenes special is during the Carl Weathers episode, they showed the boom operator, and I was like, I had to stop and rewind.
I did not notice this at all. This is amazing.
The boom operator is wearing pink shorts, and that is a reference to the boom operator on A New Hope in Tunisia wore nothing but these tight pink shorts.
Little pink shorts. That's amazing. Obviously, this guy's a Star Wars nerd.
Yeah, but he's seriously wearing those along with the rest of his gear. He wears it to work every day.
That's great.
Somebody identified. I wish I had saved it. Someone identified Gene's guy that got digitally erased.
Oh.
Somebody identified him. I think it was it was either a prop guy or a stunt guy. But somebody identified him based on behind the scenes stuff from the Disney Gallery. It was on the Mandalorian subreddit. I can't remember.
Next week, Disney's going to digitally erase him from the doc.
While we're mentioning Carl Weathers, I loved hearing him just sing Horatio Sands' praises.
That was great because we didn't get to hear from Horatio, but we got to hear Carl Weathers talk about how great Horatio is.
Yeah, and 50% of Carl Weathers' screen time was just talking about Horatio Sands.
Yep.
And him bonding with Gina over he's like, I used to be the guy who was I used to be an athlete, and then I moved into doing action. So he's
Yeah.
like, I know how to like, work the camera and direct this. And so they have like kind of a special bond based on, similar backgrounds.
Yeah, it was really cool to see him walking around the set directing. I hope we get hope we get more Carl Weathers directed Mandalorian. Like that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Give Carl Weathers a
Oh,
Star
yeah.
Wars.
That
Can you
was a
imagine
great
that?
episode.
Can you imagine like Carl Weathers directing Grief Karga the movie?
That'd be great.
Oh man, that'd be hilarious. What else? Oh yeah, we were talking about Tamara Morrison's enthusiasm a little bit ago. There's this great shot of him just wearing this cowboy hat in
it's such a
Simi
good
Valley in beautiful Southern California.
It's crazy. Both actors who wore Boba Fett's armor this season, like I've seen in cowboy hats now.
Well, like also that's a matter of practicality and where they were shooting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have a cowboy hat and a couple sun hats like that I only wear on set.
Cowboy hats are great.
They're functional as hell.
Oh yeah. When Tamara Morrison, I feel like he wore a cowboy hat in From Dusk Till Dawn 3, but I could be wrong. I know it was definitely set during that era, but I don't remember much about any of the characters in that movie, if you can believe it or not.
I never saw
Just that
either
he's
of
in
the
it.
two sequels.
I was gonna say I'm in the same boat as Alex.
But I do.
They're both bad.
The Blu-ray set is all three movies plus Full Tilt Boogie, which I do own. I've just never watched the second two movies.
Well, I believe Danny Trejo was in all three, so you've
Of course
got that.
he is. Of course he is. Those movies are like orange, and he is also kind of orange, so he just goes right in there.
Oh yeah, I'd say if you have them at your fingertips, go for it.
All right.
If for
One of
nothing
them-
else.
One of them is
Other than
directed by
Tamara
Scott Spiegel. Oh, sorry, I trampled your Tamara Morrison.
Oh no, you're fine.
One of them is
didn't
directed by
realize that.
Scott Spiegel, I think. I think it's the third one. Was directed by Scott Spiegel, who is one of Sam Raimi's Detroit associates. From back in
Yes,
the
that's
day.
why that name's familiar. Okay.
Slurp.
Tamara Morrison's also responsible for another of my favorite moments, which is his Star Wars blues jam on Rodriguez's guitar.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Which, like, normally I feel like most people's reaction is like, oh, this dude's carrying a guitar around. But, like, I'm just watching Rodriguez do it. I was like, all right, that's actually kind of cool and not lame like a dude at a party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been on a couple sets where a principal creative or the director or something is walking around with an instrument, and it's kind of just like to keep their brain occupied because they're working constantly. Like Rodriguez is, I guarantee, like as Rodriguez is like twiddling away on guitar, his brain is just like churning about how the day's gonna go and exactly how things are piecing together. Like it's that mindset.
I believe it.
It's that like way of creativity where it's just like it doesn't stop. Like I can't turn this off. I need to be doing the things.
Like, he looks like he's not even thinking about what he's playing. Like, his
He's
fingers
not,
are doing
yeah.
one thing, and he's just like off thinking about whatever's next on the set or whatever.
I don't think he's like an incredible composer or anything. He's totally competent and like you know he's come up with some really great themes. But I loved I think it was the DVD for Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and he was just like, it was like a little tour of his like doing post-production on it because he just had this big post-production suite in the back of his house. And he's like, I'll be over here editing and I'll think, oh, that needs a piece of music, and he just pushes his chair over to the music computer and plugs in his guitar and like gets the keyboard out and just like does something for 3.5 minutes. He's like, okay, great, and then rolls back over to the edit, and it's like, okay, now it's scored. And I'm like, how do you do that, man? Like, that's like,
I can't do that because I get all focused on the one thing I'm doing, and then if I switch over, I'll get like deep into it. Then like, oh, I had to get back to the other thing now.
Yeah, no, it's like it's all of a piece in that guy's brain. It is wild to me. It's a totally different level of operation.
Oh yeah, and that, like, I've scored one like short project ever, and I do not have the bandwidth to sit there, put a scene together, and then just wheel over and it's like, all right, I'm gonna plug out this theme really quick. It's like, I need to be doing one or the other. Like, I cannot split my brain that way.
Right. Yeah, totally. Another thing that was revealed in this behind the scenes special that Travis, you kindly sent pictures of, is there are miniatures in this.
Yeah. Which
I knew, but I didn't know the extent of.
I knew the extent of the miniature for the Razor Crest.
Yeah.
They talked about that in season 1. But they made a miniature for the light cruiser, the Imperial light cruiser, which is incredible because when they show the shots of it in the show, I think like, wow, this looks
It really
so
did
close
harken back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
It really looked
and that's
that way.
why.
Yeah.
It's because they use the same technique. So you see all these shots of them shooting these miniatures in the same style you saw them shooting them back in the 70s and 80s. And it just pays off so much because
sorry, go ahead.
You see in like the sequel trilogy, I never feel any particular weight to any of the Star Destroyers, especially the huge army of them in Rise of Skywalker.
Totally. It diminishing returns, man.
Yeah. But just seeing this one lone miniature, being used to such great effect.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Dark Trooper thing. They're and with the volume, they're doing a great job of taking like old classic visual effects and mixing them in with new ones, like keeping the joints and everything on the Dark Troopers, filling those in with like, we're going to computerize those because no humans can have those.
Right.
It's just like how it should be. It's
totally.
They should be using more puppets and just filling in all the gaps instead of let's make the whole thing CG.
Which is really like, that's what they're doing. And it was this model is incredible. Number one, just because it is. Number two, I didn't realize they were doing this. They're making these models, they're photographing them, they're scanning them in high resolution, and that's what they're projecting on the volume. Which is crazy because that could just be just as easily computer generated imagery, but there's something in the photographic process that gives it this kind of reality that we know and are familiar with in the universe. And again, that goes back to like Favreau knowing exactly why our brains are reacting to certain things, or not necessarily why, but that he knows what they're reacting to and knows what to go for in replication in that kind of a sense. And it's also so impressive.
Puts the real pressure on to make sure that the details on those miniatures are good because when it's blown up to that scale,
it's just so cool. So cool to see all the effects and stuff coming together. And another moment that was like, I didn't think about it in the episode, but is, obviously had to be CG, was Frog Lady running away from the ice spiders. And they showed that clip of it in the thing, and I'm like, that looks photo perfect. Like, that looked incredible. I couldn't actually get over how good those two shots of her running looked. They looked exactly like she looked in the suit.
Yeah. I had assumed that like that part with her leaping and everything was absolutely CGI, but like, God, they really made it. Like they could have just used it as like, it's only for a few seconds. This can look like butt and it'll be fine.
Right.
And it's like, no, this isn't quite right. We're gonna make sure that we really nail it. And it looks really good.
Could we get the Mandalorian ILM team to redo, like, if we must have Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope, can we get them to do it for the final time and just fix it?
Yeah. Oh, they would definitely do Jabba the right way.
Just do it one last time. You've given us, 3 iterations of that totally unnecessary scene now, and none of them are correct? Is it 4?
It might be. I don't know.
Oh, it's 4 for the 4K. The 4K version is different now.
Yeah,
it's an updated model. So it's the 97 model, the 04 Blu-ray model, the 04 Blu-ray model, the 04 DVD, then the Blu-ray, and now the 4K. Just do it one more time and make it correct, because like it always looks like hot butt, and we need it to not. You gotta tackle Jedi rocks while you're at it. Like, legitimize that, make that look like real things.
That was actually going to be what I was going to say next.
Oh, wow.
And then if somebody could license that and give me a 7-inch of it, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, you should just get a band together and like rent a studio for a day and just do a really good cover of Jedi Rocks.
Oh man, I kind of want to now.
Put like a sick guitar solo in there. You go wang
There
chicky
is
chicky
kind
pop
of
pop.
a solo there at the end of that show.
Oh yeah, there is. Wow, I actually remember the little fuzz guy's lyrics to that now that
Joe Yowza is his name.
Joe Yowza, yep.
Oh yes, Joe Yowza or Joe Yowza?
Joe Yowza.
Just go right in the hall of Sleaze Bagano. And really, like, pre-Vizsla, too. I mean...
Oh, Star Wars.
Frog Lady.
They were all Star Wars.
The thing is, we're eventually going to get a Frog Lady toy. Eventually. Even if it's in, like, 30 years. There's going to be, like, what haven't we made a toy of? Kenner's going to be run by, like, you know, our robotic cyborg overlords. And, like, they're going to be like, what Star Wars toys have we analyzed we haven't made? Oh, yeah, Frog Lady. And she'll still just be called Frog Lady.
Yep. What licensed Mandalorian toys have we gotten?
That's a question for Travis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean...
We got this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely got our Baby Yoda. And I know there's a Mandalorian figure.
Yeah, oh, there are plenty of figures I made. I just got this guy, which is the Jason Sudeikis biker
Oh,
scout,
nice.
which I'm excited about.
Very nice.
But yeah, no, they've made like pretty much every character from season 1.
There's a Queel toy, no?
Yeah, there's a Queel. There's a Grief
Queel.
Carganel.
Yeah. So we need Frog Lady. We'll get Frog Lady.
Here's IG-11, which they just took IG-88 and they, you know,
Paint
modded
job
The
it a
and
little.
stuff.
bandolier on him.
Yeah. The other day I spent far too much money in the winter Steam sale because, you know, I have a habit of doing that and not playing any of the games I buy. But one of the games I bought was Dark Forces, which I've never played, and it was on sale for $2 whole. So
Oh.
I may finally play Star Wars Dark Forces 25 years after release.
I actually don't know if I played the original. I've only done Dark Forces 2 and Jedi Outcast.
Oh, okay.
Dark Forces 2 is the one with Kyle Katarn, right?
Well,
Where
they're
he becomes
all three
Jedi.
with Kyle Katarn.
Okay, Dark Forces 2 is the one where he becomes a Jedi, though, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one I remember very, very vividly.
Yeah, I never played those. I've owned Knights of the Old Republic for a while. I still haven't played it. And I bought Battlefront, so I can finally play Battlefront. And, yeah.
I take back what I said about Sleaze Bagano. Kyle is the dumbest name in the Star Wars universe.
Kyle!
You can't just slap some samurai sounding last name on it and still get us by the fact that it's a guy named Kyle in a Star War. Come on.
Yeah. Guess that one didn't get read too hard by George when the treatment passed his desk.
Here we go. Chad Skywalker.
Hi, I'm Scott. Scott Spaceman.
All right, Scott Spaceman I'm on board with.
I run the aluminum fuzzbox. I don't know. This is there's material there, but I'm not accessing it correctly. So let's
You
just
haven't
move on.
heard of me? Jimmy Star War?
I'm Bill Lasergun.
All
We
right.
just make our own Star Wars spin-offs with these characters. Hey Favreau, can we borrow the volume for like a couple of weeks?
I think Bill Space Gun is Han Solo, or Bill Lasergun.
So the other thing is there's a deep fake video that came out with where they fixed Luke, and after I watched that, I'm like, can they go back and like of one of the few few things that I think that this show could improve upon is that scene, and I hope that as time goes on, they go back and they actually do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one edit that I'd be okay with after the fact.
I would be okay with the edit. This obviously like is a very good proof of concept for like how a really well done deep fake could be, but this deep fake is it needs to be augmented. Like, this is obviously just like a quick internet video.
Yeah.
But like the principal thing that's wrong with the CG version, the mouth, is even more wrong in the deep fake version.
Definitely is. But like just seeing the face, I'm like,
right?
Oh,
no, totally.
There's actually Luke.
Totally. Like the face registers photographically much closer to Mark Hamill at that time. So, but yeah, that's what we need. We need this kind of AI thing to be brought into the ILM workflow and the ILM like library of tools at their disposal, and it needs to be augmented, and not just like a one pass. Again, like I don't know what went into this. I don't know how this crap gets done. Like it's beyond me. But
I think the solution is just to get Hamill to come in and just give us Weekend Dad Luke Skywalker as he is.
I would be into it. But JJ.
Yeah, what happened? It's only been 5 years. Oh, I started drinking a lot of blue milk.
It's like 40% fat. It's like it's 40% straight drinking fat.
Yep. All those blue Russians he's been throwing back.
Oh man, that absolutely exists. I did drink the blue milk at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. I hear it's very sweet.
It is very sweet, and it's it's got a bit of a tang too, and it's like eggnog consistency.
Oh,
it's a bit thick.
Be some of those famous Wookiee Yookies?
I think I had those too.
Oh, really?
or like whatever the cookies were. I think I have a Star Wars cookbook that I think Wookiee Yookies are in.
Would that be the Wookiee cookbook?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what it's called, is Wookiee cookies.
That's
right?
one of the few Star Wars things that is no longer in my possession. I'm very sad about it. I'm sure I could probably easily get a copy of it. I just to put zero effort into it.
Yeah, I it's a hole in your life, but it's not a hole that you look at very often.
No.
All right. So, do we have anything more to say about season 2? I know we've really basically only talked about the stuff we've seen in the gallery, which is fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, though. I mean, like we got a really cool season of television, and if we want to go into if you actually want to do like the art versus product debate, like I can get into that, but I don't know if you want me to actually get into that. But I thought this was like really fantastic Star Wars. This is like as good as Star Wars could be, as good as Star Wars should be, made by people who care and understand. Mm-hmm. And I hope that that's what Disney is taking away from the success of this show. Yeah,
we'll see if that's the lesson learned in the coming years with all the stuff coming out.
Yeah.
We'll find out in 2021 when we get the Adventures of Jimmy Star War.
Yeah, because I mean the thing we kind of talked about, but with the Book of Boba Fett, it's like, oh, there's another one that Favreau's working on, along with the Rangers of the New Republic and Mando season 3.
Right.
So he's, stretching himself kind of thin there.
Yeah. And we haven't seen him do that before, so we don't know how that's going to go. He's never captained a ship that big, I think, before, Or, wait, I said that twice. But I don't think he has, and I might be wrong. And I don't think he can't do it, but, I read comic books, and I've read a lot of comic books by guys who write multiple comic books every month, and it shows. Yeah. Quality of like the Walking Dead comic book dropped significantly when Robert Kirkman got very popular and started writing like 4 books a month and executive producing the TV show. So hope Favreau got it.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm optimistic for Favreau because he's clearly surrounded himself with people who are just as invested as he is. And I think knowing that you've got people you can lean on and count on to help with the heavy lifting that's gonna come through in those moments of being spread too thin.
Yeah, I think you're right. Trav, any parting thoughts, worries, concerns?
I don't think so. I'm excited about, Filoni doing Ahsoka, and I think, as we were talking about with kind of like a fear for Favreau, it's with Filoni. I feel like he's still going very strong and is just, as passionate. So I'm looking forward to his further involvement in
Totally.
the Mandalorian and whatever involvement he has in the, Book of Boba Fett show, and bringing in all the bounty hunters from Bridge of the Star Destroyer into that show.
And we already said this when we talked about the episode, or when we talked about the Book of Boba Fett being announced last week and all this stuff. But I'm even more psyched for Robert Rodriguez's involvement now after seeing like how into it he was in this Disney Gallery thing.
Mm-hmm.
I that's in my head, like that's the Robert Rodriguez Star Wars show. It's like he gets Boba Fett because he makes and like his men. We didn't really mention this. Like the thing that he said that was so smart is like, I can't take for granted that we get to see Boba Fett again. Everything that we want to see Boba Fett do, he must do here and now. And and he did. It was great.
Yeah, I meant to mention that. I think that's honestly a great mentality for anyone working on a show like this.
Yeah, totally agree.
Like obviously, like outside of the main, like just get the most out of it and act like you're never going to get to play in that sandbox again.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And it shows. Like the passion comes through. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So bring Bosk in and let him do all the things we should have seen him do.
Yeah. Bosk the show.
If they bring in IG-88, are they going to have Taika voice him, I wonder?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Or would Richard Ayoade voice Forlom if they brought Forlom into the show?
Oh. Well,
question too.
Forlom isn't quite what Zero is. Zero's a new sculpt.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, well, we shall see.
Yeah, we got a year to find out.
Those are some of our thoughts on what we saw in the gallery and how much we love season 2 as a whole. So in the meantime, we're going to be covering a ton of Marvel stuff, starting with WandaVision here in just 3 weeks. So much Marvel stuff. We're calling it Maximum Marvel Drive. And we are not giving Stephen King a penny. Yeah.
He's fine.
So yeah, we're going to be covering all of the upcoming Disney Plus Marvel shows, and at least the first half of this year. We shall see what the second half brings us. And Alex, you'll be joining us for WandaVision. Yeah. And Alex has not seen any trailers for WandaVision yet, he told me. I was about to say. Yeah. Definitely seems like, Marvel is going out on a limb and changing it up, which is, I think, their biggest criticism.
Oh, I was muted. I'm a genius. Thank you, Sarah. So tune in to the audio release to hear bonus words from me. Deleted material. My opinions of nothing. I will watch WandaVision happily, but I haven't seen any previews. It just looks weird. I'm in. That's the summary. Thank you, Sarah.
Dustin, you're excited about covering some Marvel stuff?
I'm excited to cover it. I'm curious what it's all going to look like. Because I don't know about you, but I never watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I never particularly felt a compelling need to.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, at least having characters directly in the universe as opposed to the periphery has me more intrigued than the premise of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So
I watched the first season and a half before I had to just give up because the limitations of it were just too much. I'm like, they can't ever interact with the actual MCU. They can only reference it. And
yeah.
Whereas it seems like now, stuff in WandaVision, I think is going to come into play in Spider-Man 3 and the Doctor Strange movie. So
yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how this all connects, because I mean that's obviously the whole thing with Marvel is everything is connected to everything else somehow. I think at their worst, outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I've never given a shot because I don't care, at Marvel's worst, it can be a little boring sometimes, and I can live with that if it's fun in parts. That's exactly how I got through Thor 2: The Dark World. So,
oh man, Thor 2: The Dark World has my favorite dumb-ass opening lines of a movie of all time, because you have Sir Anthony Hopkins really dramatically going, "Before there was light, there was darkness. And from the darkness came the dark elves." And I'm like, oh my God. This is a $200 million dark elf movie. This is the most nonsense.
Oh yeah, there's dumb stuff about it, but then genuinely the chemistry between Hemsworth and Hiddleston is great.
Totally, yeah.
And everything between them is gold in that movie, so it makes it worth sitting through. So I think at the worst, some of these episodes in the Marvel series might be kind of filler, but I think there'll be fun parts if nothing else.
Sure.
So,
and luckily, I don't think they're going to have too much time for too much filler because they're all going to be 6 episodes long.
That's great.
Thank God.
From now on, every season of television, 10 episodes or less, especially if you're an hour long.
Wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking about The Flash earlier today, and there's it's 20 some episode seasons, and they're all an hour long. I was like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I will never watch this show.
Yeah, they're finally... Well, I mean, it's number one, they can't afford to make 22 episodes of WandaVision. And number two, if they did, there would be less time for other programming. I mean, it's just smart for so many reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Attention span's not being the least of it. I mean, it's a big reason I love, long-running British sitcoms, because there's 9 seasons, but there's 45 episodes. It's great.
Yeah, and especially this last decade, a great number, the last 20 years even, a great deal of the better shows have been tighter season shows, like The Wire, Game of Thrones up until about 5 seasons, and Breaking Bad.
Yeah. The turning point was Lost. That was when people really saw, you cannot sustain that kind of thing for that kind of episode.
Oh, yeah. The part of me that wants to go back and rewatch Lost remembers that there are 2 very full seasons at the beginning before they started doing those half seasons. And it was like, oh man, do I really want to do this again?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I've done it, but it is a lot.
Yeah. Whereas Eastbound and Down, I just watched that over a weekend with my fiance. It was great.
That's great. So yeah, I'm excited for Marvel shows. I mean, that's the thing. I never wanted to become a Marvel fanboy, and I'm not really. I don't own any of them. I don't have any apparel or toys or anything. But it was really them letting James Gunn in and Taika doing Ragnarok, and them getting weird, and them giving a lot of money to weird movies, and Infinity War 2 or Endgame rather. I don't understand how any film critic in the world can review Endgame, like anybody, because it is completely unjudgeable by any metric of anything. You can't watch it as its own thing. It's a sequel to 23 movies.
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna just review the series finale to a show without like the context of the show that came before it.
Exactly. Yeah. And like the stuff, you know, you get lines like just like, we're chasing a wizard for a magic. What was that line that Tony Stark had to Spider-Man? He was like explaining what was going on to Spider-Man, and it's like, oh, the wizard has a magic rock, and these guys are from space, and the aliens are here to get it. It's like, I'm watching a $400 million movie about that. Like, that's great. So I love that, and that would also be part of the art versus product thing, because I don't. It's more product than art, but it's done in such a big, insane way that it made me really fall in love with it after a certain point in the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Oh
yeah. So we shall see what the future of Marvel and Star Wars on television. And so, in the meantime, Alex, where can people find more of you?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Brunel, where I am mostly inactive because I'm just playing Skyrim.
And Dustin, how about you?
You can find me at DustinMeadowsComedy.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Dustin Meadows, where I'm sometimes active because I'm playing other games that are not Skyrim, mostly Animal Crossing, but some other stuff too.
Cool. And let people know about the calendars.
Oh yeah, we have
still a few left.
Sexy 2021 with Dustin Meadows calendars.
Yeah, I got a few.
Of course he freezes it during a plug for his own product.
For those left, if you want to look at my mostly naked body all year.
Yeah, there's.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like we've mentioned before, we all went to college together. There's like props from college in this calendar, which is hysterical to me. I didn't expect werewolf.
The werewolf doctor Alex and I were talking about before you came on, Dustin.
Yeah, I thought, what an appropriate time to bring that character back.
Yeah, why not? Werewolf Doctor 2021.
That a dozen people maybe remember. That's what we'll do. Maybe we'll do a remake of that someday.
Yeah.
Give us the volume for that, Disney.
Yeah, the Werewolf Doctor Cinematic Universe. And you can hang out with Rick Derringer as well.
Perfect.
All right. And so you can find the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, where we stream every week. Subscribe to us on any of your podcast catchers. Leave us reviews. We greatly appreciate those. And reach out to the show at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. And so until next season, if you join us for Mando, and here in a few weeks, if you're joining us for WandaVision, initiate self-destruct sequencing.